This particular period is set aside for just introducing you to who the Dream Center is, what they're about, and some stories from the Dream Center. So who we have with us today is Pastor Paul and Jeff Shaw, and they are here from the Atlanta Dream Center, and they're going to talk to you about why they exist, what their purpose is, how they got started, and where they're at now. It does hover around the topic of sex trafficking here in the Atlanta area and the suburbs of Atlanta. So some of you are aware of the problem that we have, and some of you, this is going to be brand new information to you. You may see over here on the screen, we've got Ms. Palmer and Ms. Pennington. Their classes may be joining in with us also with Mr. Hardison. That is from East Hall. So we'll have a group from East Hall that's going to be Skyping in when they can. So just know that they are there, they can hear you, and they can see you. So just know that. We would ask that at this time you just fully engage. Just you can do it for 40 minutes. Just shut the phones down. You can tune out the world and just tune in here. I promise you won't be disappointed. We haven't had a period where we haven't had students fully engaged. You're welcome to ask questions. If you have a question and you just really want to go ahead and ask it, pop your hand up. It's an interactive talk. I don't really want to say lecture or anything like that. It's more of just a discussion. So if you have a question, pop your hand up. Don't be afraid to ask it. And that's all. I'll pass it off to you.
Hey, listen, if you are sleepy after, we just ate, man. We just had some great nachos. So if we start to doze, that gives you the right to doze off, okay? Is that a fair move? All right? But we want to, not entertain you, but we want to make this so intriguing that you would not dare take a long blink. I pray that your attentiveness will be at a high level because of the interest of this subject. My name is Paul. My last name is Palmer. I'm known as Pastor Paul. For those who have been in here before, it's kind of like Dr. Phil. Most people don't know my last name, just Pastor Paul. So I'll be going down in the hood where we work, and they go, "Hey, Pastor Paul." I say, "You don't even know my last name, dude. Don't call me out, you know." Just teasing. But anyway, so we're here to tell you about the Dream Center in this session. And the Dream Center is it's a nonprofit, an NGO. It's a faith-based nonprofit, and that's why I have that first name, Pastor, because it is faith-based. But what we do is reach, rescue, and restore men, women, and children. And it's 3 different areas that we have. We have what we call Out of Darkness. That's our sexual exploitation outreach. We have Dream Kids, known as Metro Kids. That is our prevention program where we deal with children from age 2 to 12. And then we have what we call I-AM. And that is our drug addiction and homeless outreach where we find treatment and places for them to abode, places where they live. But today, what we're going to focus on today in a little bit is the Out of Darkness. But I just want to tell you why we do it and how we got started and where we're located and where we expanded to. Is that okay? All right, good. You're not, but you can talk back too, okay? You can say, "Yeah, okay, please tell me that." Yeah, please tell me that. Great. Okay, so we're downtown in Atlanta, the Old Fourth Ward. Has anybody been downtown in Midtown recently at the what's the big Ponce City Market? Anybody been there? Man, we're right around the corner, right on that park. But when we went there, it was strictly hood, man. It was just slingers and homelessness and empty warehouses and just kind of crazy. It's changed, but we found that we don't have to move because all of a sudden it's an upscale neighborhood, because no matter what neighborhood you're in, even your neighborhood, you have the same issues we're facing with down there. And so we're just going to keep camped right there. We got a couple buildings there and some spread out. And so I'm just going to talk about the reach aspect out of all 3 of them, well, 2 of them. Well, I'm just going to talk about Princess Night, or Out of Darkness. So the reach aspect, for those who are in sexual exploitation, this is what we do. We have 3 areas of reach, and actually a 4th one, and we'll call it as part of the rescue aspect. We're in the 8 prisons, 8 jails. 8 jails in the metro area. If a woman is arrested for any type of sexual exploitation, she's given our contact information. It's not a mandate they call us, but if they do call us, we meet with them weekly while they're incarcerated, counseling them, seeing how we could get them out of their issues, put them in a long-term program, if it's addiction, if it's trauma, whatever it may be. The second one is that we go to what we call the track. That's where women actually still walk the streets and as they're being trafficked. And there's certain areas of downtown Atlanta that has those tracks readily available for ministries such as ours to minister to these women that are out there being trafficked. And what was the third one, man? Just had lunch.
Now you're putting me in the clubs.
Oh, the clubs, yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, the clubs. I saw some of you doze off when I went lethargic there for a minute. We go to the clubs, men and women's strip clubs. It is a great avenue for women to be trafficked, and some women are trafficked just through dancing. Not just selling their body, but they're trafficked by their exploiter just to dance, and they take all their money, and actually they're in slavery to that. So these are the areas that we reach out to these women. When we go out on the Princess Night, which is on the tracks, we take a long stem rose. We have a florist that gives us every week dozens and dozens of fresh long stem roses. Most of them are grown in South America, flown in for that day. And they really are. Did you know that? You didn't know that? Yeah, not for us, just for us. It's a large florist, but it's a wholesale place. Yeah, you didn't know they flew them in just for us, Jeff? Yeah. And so we take that out and we have a handwritten card. This is awesome. We have kids, elementary kids, we have high schoolers, we have elderly people writing out these cards, and they're card of gosh, I really got lethargic. That was a great nacho I had today for lunch. Of encouragement, things that talks about how much they're loved and how beautiful they are. Words that they don't normally hear on the street, right? And we just want to pump them up, let them know that we care for them, they have value. And in that card is a hotline number, 24-hour hotline number. They can call at any time of the day or night, and we will answer that call and arrange to pick them up and put them in a program if they want, get them out of that situation immediately. And so that is our, the reach is the phone call. And let me tell you how that works. I really like this, Jeff. In fact, I really like how it's growing and getting larger too with other volunteers. What's your name? Hi, Paul. Can't shake your hand. I was really reaching for that cookie. Yeah. And what do you have? Nuts? How are you?
How's your food?
So let's just say one of you called that hotline, right? We would have women, 6 or 7 women, if anyone was to call, answer that phone. They're not in a call center with little booths and those little funny headsets on, you know, the smile with the TV camera. That's not what they're doing. They're just living life. And when you call, it goes right to their cell phone. All of the phones ring, and it says hotline. So this is one of my operators, right? You're not calling. And you answer that hotline, and you just start talking to this person. They may not want to be rescued at that moment, may want some ideas. Might be a police officer wanting to know how we can help a client that they may have arrested or rescued. And what you would do, if they wanted out, you would set up a rescue team. We have 50 rescue teams, 50, right, Jeff?
Yeah. 50
rescue teams, a man and a woman in a team, and they would run out to their cars quickly and get their MapQuest out and figure out where they're going. It's not that easy. But they would find out where to go. They'd have a safe place to pick up the girl. And when they would arrive, if it didn't look safe, we would call local PD. They would just kind of secure the area for us. We'd rescue the woman. We don't kick doors in. We don't have Tommy guns and, you know, wearing all black and, you know, doing stuff. That's not what we do. It's a volunteer rescue. They call us. We say, we're here to get you. And then we take them into the place of restoration. And we have safe homes. Right now we're consolidated our safe homes. And we have a safe home that they come to. And when they're greeted with 3 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, it doesn't matter what time of day or what day of the week, we're ready for them. Our staff is dressed and their hair is brushed and they just look normal. And they walk into this house that's beautifully decorated. They get a gift packet. They cry over the gift packet because they normally don't own anything. And then they go into a room. They get their own bedroom. After they rest and we turn their nights back into days and days back into nights, they get a caseworker, and then we evaluate them and try to put them in a long-term program, which we pay for. We pay for everything. And whether in that program we stay in touch with them, and hopefully are there when they graduate. So that is the Reach, Rescue, and Restore out of the darkness. Any questions so far about that? Because that was really rapid. None. Good. So let me tell you how we started. I'm going to tell you a story, and then I'm going to have Jeff jump in. We came to Atlanta to visit a grandchild, my wife and I, and realized that there were some areas in downtown that were just wide open for this. We didn't really know about trafficking at the time. We were just going to deal with kids and poverty and homelessness and addiction. And we came down there and we started with a lawnmower, mowing people's lawns because I didn't know what else to do, and raking the leaves in the hood. Just told them we loved them, we loved our neighborhood, and we just want to do the yard work for free. And didn't have an office. My office was a van, and the lawnmower was in my Harley trailer. I have a Harley, and we just put all the lawn stuff in that trailer. went down there and did that. Pretty soon we started getting food, and then we started a kids ministry. We started all these different things. But there was one day that we started the sex trafficking outreach, and that was my son, Patrick, who's now in Phoenix, Arizona. He had a team from Wisconsin down to help us work in the hood, like a church group, a youth group. And he called me at home. He said, Dad, he says, man, we don't have anything to do tonight, man. We're pretty bored. I said, just go get some long stem roses and go out and talk to the girls on the street. I got to tell you, it was life changing. That guy, Pastor Rich, still comes every year. And he said that's what transformed his youth group's life, was coming down and doing Princess Night. First time ever. We didn't even know what we were doing. And so they started doing that, and pretty soon the girls are asking us, how do I get off the street? Well, man, we didn't have anything for him, right? Well, Pat said, just call me. So Pat made these little cards and put his cell number on there. So he'd be in bed with his wife, Shelly, at 3 o'clock in the morning, get a phone call. Hey, I'm calling. I want to get off the street. So they freak out, not knowing what to do, throw the kids in the back of the van, and they get dressed and go out and find this woman, pick her up, and they would start calling in the morning for places to take her. And nobody would take them. Nobody would take them because they're required to have an ID. They didn't have an ID because their trafficker strips all their identity. They needed to have blood work. Well, they weren't going to go get blood work. Their trafficker wasn't going to take them to a clinic to get blood work. So they didn't have the blood work done. They had to be sober 72 hours. Well, man, we just picked them up Saturday morning or Saturday night. They'd only been clean 18 hours. They wouldn't take them for that reason. So we didn't know what to do with them. So we thought, man, we got to fill this gap in. It was everywhere. Nobody had a program for a low barrier. Just come in loaded, come in with no ID, come in with no blood work, AIDS, whatever you have, we don't care. So we opened up the Safe House. This is where Jeff gets involved. So Jeff and Patrick become great friends. Jeff is an attorney. He's working for a law firm. He says, man, I got this heart, man. I want to rescue these girls. Jeff was going to go in with the guns, though, right? He was going to take the automatic weapon and kick doors in and get his own TV show. And so Jeff and Pat become friends. So we give Jeff, he's got a board now. He's got money coming in. He's got people who said, I got your vision. He's got a team. He's already trained to rescue. So he gets our hotline, and he's picking up all these women. You know what I mean. I'm thinking about it. You know what I mean. Rescuing these women. And he's having the same dilemma. He can't find any place to take them. Well, we just happened at the same time open up our Safe House at that time, so he was bringing them back. And it just made sense that we just joined forces. So we kept the name Out of Darkness. It used to be called Princess Night. It's called Out of Darkness. We kept Jeff's name for his 501(c). We dissolved that, and he came under us, and he ran all our program. He ran not just rescuing, but he ran our hotline. He ran our street ministry. He ran our safe homes. That was his hope. So all of a sudden, his portfolio just blew up. And he did such a terrific job. I think the first 5 years, we rescued 1,000 women when he came on staff. 1,000 women. I think it was actually January 31st. Huh?
Yeah.
But it was right at the end of the year. We did our 1,000th first. I thought I got to rescue. Mine was $9.99, but Jeff got the 1,000th person. So anyway, that is how we began. I talked about the children as our risk aspect. We just do training for our children that they will not find themselves in the area of trafficking or homelessness or drug addiction. So anyway, Jeff, I'm going to take a nap. It's your turn. All right?
So the reality is, like, at this point when we're talking about statistics and phone calls and rescues, like, we didn't have any education. I never had this in school. I didn't even know about trafficking until after I graduated college. I had no idea at all. So we weren't some experts in a field. Like, we were just people who saw something that was happening in our community and felt moved to do something about it, right? And I'm sure if we sat down with each of you and were like, hey, what really moves your heart? You might give us 100 different things, and that's awesome. But what we started doing is just saying, okay, what do we know fundamentally that every person longs for? Well, it's to hear about a sense of value and belonging, right? And it's to know that they're cared for. So we may not know what kind of therapy is needed yet, or social work or anything else, but we can go tell people that we care about them and that we value them. Well, very quickly, for people who never hear that message and it starts to generate this interest, well, man, somebody loves me, somebody cares about me, well, I want to get out of this. And oh, darn it, like, I don't know what to do. So what has happened over time is we didn't just launch this massive nonprofit all at once. We started one thing at a time. And when we're doing Princess Night, this story, every time I tell it or I hear it, it still moves me. But we had a lady who we would go give her a rose every single week. They know we're going to be there. There's consistency. And by the way, you guys, who's 16 or older right now? All right, y'all with your hands up, you're all invited to come do Princess Night with us. We train you on the spot, get your mom and dad to sign a waiver first, but you guys can come out with us.
Princess Night is where we go to the track and we actually talk to the women and count at the roses. We talk to women that are on the track.
So every week we take a different group, and the people out there know, hey, we know they're gonna be here. It used to be Friday, now we moved it to Saturday. Every Saturday, 7:30, 8 o'clock, they're gonna be here. We've shown up, and there's young women, they've already got a little duffel bag packed, and they're standing in our route. And we pull up, open the door to get out. Before we can get out, she jumps in. We're like, okay, outreach is over. Now let's get to the safe home. But the story that I love is there is a lady, because we think, and what I was naive to believe at the beginning is everybody who we offer an opportunity, they're going to jump on it, right? Like, who doesn't want to get out of that lifestyle? Well, there's a lot of reasons people don't just jump on it and ride into the sunset, right? So this lady, we had been giving her a card and a rose for 3 years. We knew her name, we knew her story, she wasn't ready to leave, and it's gotta be their choice, right? We can't force someone into a path or a journey that they're not ready for themselves. But when she finally, 3 years in, she makes the call to our hotline, we send a team to pick her up. Y'all know those gallon-sized freezer bags, like not the little sandwich Ziploc bags, but the big ones? She had the clothes on her body and a freezer bag that had all the cards she'd ever been given on Princess Night before. And she said every time, because y'all, depression and suicide are huge things that people in sex trafficking deal with. If they don't see a way out, if they don't have hope, sometimes their thought is the only way to end my suffering is just to end my own life. But she said every time at night I thought about just taking my life, I would pull out a card and I would read it and I would say, okay, one more day, until she finally got the courage to call. And that Ziploc bag of cards that literally any one of y'all who you might not have written the card, but you would be the one to put it in her hand, that might be the card that she pulls out on that night. Like, it's not just Jeff, it's not just Pastor Paul, it's a community of people who step in at various points and plant seeds and water the seeds and then harvest the seeds, right? Like, we all play a role. Another story with the jail, how we got started doing the jail thing, we never had a thought about jails, but we got a letter from a woman, it was like 5 pages handwritten, to our P.O. box, and she said, hey, I'm just going to call her T. My name, and she gave us permission to share this story. My name's T, I'm 43 years old. I've been all over the place. I don't really have a place I call home. Her story's crazy too. She was walking the street, and an undercover officer pulled up. She offered him sex for money. He got out of the car, identified himself as a Atlanta Police Department officer, put her under arrest. She sat down on the curb, she started bawling. And usually for the women on the street, and the men, there's like a hardness and a little bit of an edge. They don't show a lot of emotion like that. So he was like, okay, this is different. Like, this is not the response I'm used to getting. We have these cards, they're called Hope cards, and they're just really colorful. It says Hope and it has our hotline number. Somehow this guy had a stack of those cards that he carried in his pocket on his patrols because he actually cared about the people that he was serving. So he's like, hey, I don't know your situation, but I'm going to put one of these cards in your pocket, see what you can do. So he puts it in her pocket. She gets to the jail. She gives it to the social worker at the jail. The social worker, it doesn't have our name on it, nothing. She Googles the phone number and it pulls up our website. And she goes, oh, this is a group that helps people getting out of prostitution and trafficking. She gives them our mailing address, and then this lady sold her dinner tray to another inmate to get a stamp because she didn't have any money to get her own stamp. And then she sent us her life story. At age 8, she was being sexually molested by her stepfather. She got taken by the foster care system. She was placed with her grandparents. When she got placed with her grandparents at age 10, her cousins started to sexually abuse her. She ran away from her grandparents, and who was waiting? A parent. And she goes to him at age 13, he starts trafficking her. Now she's 43 years old, right? So this is someone who never even finished middle school, didn't have a diploma, never had worked another job before. All she'd ever known was the life of prostitution. And now she's looking at her life saying, man, I feel like all these events got lined up for me to have this opportunity out, but how do you start to rebuild a life at age 43, right? When you've never had a family, you've never had a healthy community, never had an education or a job. So our first response is, why is she in jail? Like, this is crazy. This is not just, right? But then the second thing was, well, we can't just change that overnight, but I wonder how many T's are sitting in jails all across our community because I'm not criticizing, but historically, women in prostitution have been arrested, not helped, right? So I sent a open record, I'm gonna get nerdy for a minute. I sent what's called an open records request to the city of Atlanta, and I said, can you send me all of your prostitution arrest records for the year 2012, because it was 2013 at the time. 1,300 arrests in Atlanta, 1,000 were of the women that were in prostitution, and 300 were the pimps, traffickers, the men who were paying for sex, breaking the law. So you see the disparity there? So if you think about the fact that for every woman in prostitution, there's on average 10 clients per night, shouldn't those numbers be the other way around, right? So we said, all right, well, if there's all these women in prostitution that are being arrested and their trafficker can't touch them, they're sober in jail, what if we started going in the jails and telling women that had this background that there's another way, that they don't have to keep getting bailed out by their pimp, going back into prostitution, but hey, you can redirect into something different. So we started visiting her. She started telling all the women in her cell block. Now we're getting letters from all over the state of Georgia. We have a pen pal team. We're in Bartow County, Cherokee, Gwinnett, DeKalb, Fulton, like all down to Columbus. We're in Macon. We'd love to have a Hall County team. So if y'all know of anybody who would want to help get that started, just send them our way. But guys, I promise you, this is not just an urban issue. It's not just an inner city issue. It's a people issue. And where there are people that are looking to make money by taking advantage of others, where there are people that are looking to satisfy their sexual desires at the expense of other people in unhealthy ways, then there is going to be prostitution and trafficking in that area. Another team that we built, how are we doing on time? Because I'm just getting rolling here.
Sorry, I'm in 2 minutes. Years, but I've done 25 minutes.
Great, okay, so I'm going to tell another story. So, Northeast Georgia Medical Center. And y'all familiar with that? Okay, so we got a call. There's a lady who we developed a training for medical professionals because we had a young lady in her early 20s get trafficked here from Wisconsin. She was at a bar. She was a single mom, out with one of her friends. A guy slipped something in her drink. At the end of the night, he's like, oh, you can't get home. Let me give you a ride. But she gets in his car, completely passes out for like 6 hours. When she wakes up, they're halfway to Atlanta. And there's another woman in the car that she's no idea, never met her before, same exact situation. And so they get here and they're in the Roswell-Dunwoody area, which is a suburb of North Atlanta. And what he's doing is he's keeping them in the hotel room and he takes one at a time on something called an out call. An out call is where the woman or the man is taken to the client instead of the client coming to the man or the woman. So he takes one and he tells the other, I'm going to call the room every 15 minutes. Both of these women had children. If I call the room and you don't answer it to check in and let me know you're still there, I'm going to call, I have friends back in your hometown, I'm going to call them and they're going to go get to your children before you can do anything about it. So here are women, this woman sitting in the hotel room, she's not tied to the bed, she's not locked in the closet, but she knows if I take the chance to leave, it could cost me my children, right? So that's her reality. Well, eventually, after a couple weeks, she's like, I gotta take the chance. Like, I can't do this anymore. So another thing he's doing, he's actively drugging them on a regular basis to keep them compliant. So she runs out of the hotel. She's under the influence of drugs, and she waves down a car. She can't say anything comprehensible. The guy calls 911. They send a police officer and a paramedic. No criticism here. It just shows the need for training. But the officer goes, "Oh, she's just cracked out. Like, just help her get hydrated." So he leaves. But the paramedic's like, "I don't want to just put her in the back of the ambulance and run an IV. Like, I want to take her to the hospital and ask some more questions." So he takes her to the hospital. the ER doctor on duty that night, it is like, man, I'm seeing some weird bruising. She can't really put her story together. I feel like this sounds like what this trafficking thing that I've heard of before. So she Googles and finds, through the website, finds us and calls us, puts the lady on the phone, and then she tells us her story. So we go to the hospital, sit with her until she's discharged, get her back home. The FBI catches the guy like 12 hours later. But we realize there again, how many of these women are encountering healthcare, right, while they're being trafficked. So a year later, the University of Chicago publishes a study, and they found that 88% of sex trafficking victims encounter healthcare while they're being trafficked. So do our nurses know what to, anybody thinking about going into the medical field, like as a nurse, a doctor, PA?
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
We're gonna be in good hands.
Yeah, so y'all, that we had a physician's assistant put together this 1-hour training that we can offer continuing educational credits for, and now we're going all around training emergency departments, rape crisis centers, pregnancy crisis centers, so that they can recognize the signs. We don't need to tell them how to be doctors. They know how to do that already. But we can teach them how to recognize signs and behaviors and indicators that suggest that someone might be in trouble, right? So I'm motor mouthing hard right now. I'm going to pause and say, do you guys have comments? Do you have questions about anything that we talked about so far? Please be brave. Because if you're thinking it, probably someone else has the same question.
What's the average age of people?
Great question.
trafficked?
Question was, what's the average age? Let me ask you guys, does anybody have a guess the average age? And I'll zero in, not Southeast Asia, not Eastern Europe, but here in the US, anybody have an idea what the average age that someone is recruited into sex trafficking? I heard something.
14.
13, 14? Yeah, for boys, the average range is 11 to 13, and for girls, it's 12 to 14. So when you guys think about that, this is one thing we've had to come to grips with, because we're serving primarily adults, that if that 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old girl doesn't get rescued when she's still a minor, she turns 18, and as a society, we kind of just say, oh, and I don't use this term, but we just kind of say, oh, she's just a prostitute now, right? But that was a trafficking victim. So this 43-year-old, she's not with that's in jail writing us, she's not with a trafficker anymore, but that's how her whole life got off track, right? So we have to extend the same compassion and desire and pursuit of people, no matter how old they are. The oldest women we've served have been 60 years old. We have 6 women age 60 that we've served over the years, and as young as 17. Because the younger than 17, there's an agency that works with even younger that we refer to. So, yeah, great question. And for you guys, to me, the opportunity here, which I'm so grateful for, because we never had these conversations when I was growing up, the opportunity is you guys are on the front lines more than we are. We come in after so much damage and pain has already happened. You guys are the peers of people who are being recruited through social media and being recruited in vulnerability. And anybody have a guess what the leading risk factor is for someone to wind up in a trafficking situation? Somebody take a guess. There's a few, but there's one that's like the most prominent. Yeah. That's substance abuse is huge. That's definitely it. That's not the one, but that's a big one. Runaways is huge. Runaways and foster care are huge. Any other guesses? Unstable home. Yep, close. So the most prominent factor of risk for trafficking is childhood sexual abuse. So what that means is, before that average age, when somebody actually winds up with a trafficker, that we studied our own data. We've had the 1,200 plus women, and we've asked the question, were you we frame it up different. We don't just say were you sexually abused, but we ask if it happened, and if so, what age did it first happen? 8.5 years old is the data. What that means is people that are your peers and younger are experiencing things in their home lives that are causing them to run away from something and leaving them vulnerable to a trafficker. So more than anybody, you guys are on the front lines to see things that don't seem right, that don't sound right. Maybe your friend's confiding in you something that they're going through. If y'all have a friend who's underage and she's dating a 30-year-old man, that is not right, okay? As a 30-plus-year-old man, I'll tell you, I have no business trying to date teenage girls, right? So, y'all, if you see those warning signs, I know what it feels like friendship to say, okay, I'm going to keep that secret for you, or I'll keep it under wraps. One of the most powerful stories I heard from a high schooler, there was a girl that was a senior out in Washington State, and do we have time for this?
Yeah, you have 15 minutes.
Right, 15 minutes, okay.
I want to share a big story.
Yeah, and then Pastor has one more story too. So this young lady at age 17 worked at a local coffee shop, and there was a guy who was like 60-ish that came in by himself, very non-threatening, very non-intimidating, and she says now when she tells the story, like he just kind of felt like a grandpa. Like he would ask me how I'm doing, where I go to school, what my favorite subject is, nothing creepy at all. Well, what he was doing, as he not in a non-threatening way was getting all this information, he was selling it to a 23-year-old guy who was part of a trafficking ring. And then after he got all that information, where do you want to go to college? What city do you want to live in? What do you want to study? Gives it to this guy. Now this football-looking guy, handsome, comes in. Now he's flirting with her. And she's like, oh, where are you from? I'm from Seattle. Like, I'm in the city. I'm at school. Oh my gosh, that's where I want to go to school. You see what's happening here? Well, what do you do? I play football. Oh man, I love football. What are you studying? Communications. Oh my gosh, I want to be a communications major. So she thinks that there's this really great connection happening. He's using everything he knows about her already. And he says, hey, come out with me on Friday night. I want to take you out with my college friends. We're going to go party. So she's feeling, oh man, like all my friends are going to be so jealous. He's getting me a fake ID. He does. He gets her a fake ID. He and his friends take her to the strip club, and it just happens to be amateur night, and he pressures her to get up on stage and strip for the first time, and she's like feeling kind of weird and uncomfortable, but he's like, oh, you're so brave, you're so, like, this is such an adventure, da 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 da. So she makes plans with him that she's gonna go home, pack her bags, and run away. So she tells her friend, and she's like, please don't tell, I just have to tell someone because I love you, you're my best friend. So what that friend does is has this decision, am I going to keep the secret, or am I going to share that I don't feel like something's going on? So the friend staged an intervention the next day. Her parents were there, a police officer was there, a trafficking survivor was there, and they said, you're being groomed to be trafficked. She was furious. She yelled at her friend, you betrayed me. Then she found out the full extent of what was going on, and now she travels the country speaking and telling people, don't keep secrets that are going to hurt your friend. That's not real friendship. And I know that's hard to say, but I want to encourage you guys, if you know something's going on that is risky or harmful for a friend, the real thing to do is to find a way to bring that out and help that person before it's too late. So take it back to you, you can tell.
Thanks. I just want to share the first story of a girl that we rescued. We weren't even set up for her. Her name was Vicki. That's her real name. She now shares her story, so I could use her name. Vicki was brought here by a boyfriend and another couple out of Alabama. She was 17 years old, and they went down on the Ponce de Leon in Atlanta by the Krispy Kremes. And it was late in the morning, early in the morning, late at night, and her boyfriend said, we don't have gas money or money for a hotel. You need to make some money. Kicked her out of the car. She'd never sold herself before, so it's scary, but she was standing in a corner that was popular for those women that were being prostituted. And so she made some money, picked her up the next morning, and then it was an every night ordeal. That he started trafficking. It was a plan from the beginning, get her away from her hometown and trafficked her. They're smoking crack now at this time for 16 years. She sold herself on Ponce de Leon and North Avenue in downtown Atlanta. She ended up pregnant, had a child. Before the child was age 1, she gave it to her sister. She passed away, and her sister's boyfriend is raising her daughter. Vicki becomes a little crazy and violent. This lifestyle causes a lot of mental illness. She had a lot of disturbance. She's beat up. She's losing her teeth. She's losing her beauty, and she's not valuable anymore. So her boyfriend sells her to another trafficker, and he doesn't keep her but about a year, and he dumps her. She's not worth anything. She's not making enough money. He didn't want to waste her time. Plus, she was a problem. She was really, really violent. And so Vicki is now what we call solo. She doesn't have a trafficker. She's aged out in a sense. And so now she doesn't know anything else. She's hooked on crack. This is how she's been surviving. She's homeless. But when you're solo, you have great danger of being raped and beaten and robbed. And other traffickers will have their girls actually rob you, and because you're stealing money from them. And so anyway, she didn't have any protection. And we ended up renting a crack house. We didn't sell crack. We just had a crack house. It was busted, okay? And so we took over this crack house in this neighborhood on Linden Avenue in Old Fourth Ward, and we opened up our office there. And we were pretty new at this, right? We didn't know what was going on, so I bought a shed, like a tool shed from Home Depot, and we just hung clothes in there because we had a lot of homeless people, and we just let them go in anytime they wanted and just take clothes. But pretty soon they're changing their clothes in there, they're doing weird things in there, and so we just locked it up at night. And Vicki would come every day because she had no place to live. She didn't have any place to store clothing. She spoiled her clothes working all night, so she would come every morning and get a change of clothes. And so this one morning, she comes up and her head is bleeding, just still fresh blood coming from a wound on her head. She just got robbed and beat and raped. And one of my students, we have a Bible school, took a wet rag, no gloves. She's full-blown AIDS. Her T count was under 100. I know years ago I couldn't say that without permission. I have permission to say this about Vicki. And we weren't smart in a sense. She just got a wet rag, no gloves. Had Vicki lay her head on her lap on a bench on my front porch of our crack house, and she washed the blood out of her hair. And Vicki falls asleep. I am not exaggerating. Over 6 hours, Emily sang songs over her, just sang over her. And she slept and she slept. And finally she woke up and staggered off our porch. She didn't say anything, just walked away. The next morning I pull up and she's sitting on my porch, and I'm thinking she needs clothes. So I say, hey, Miss Vicki, I'll get the key for the clothes closet. She walks up to me and she hands me condoms, a straight shooter. You know what a straight shooter is? Pipe for crack cocaine. Her ram and her torch. A torch is broken off top of a big lighter so it gets hotter. And she said some crack. And this is what she said to me. Her only words was this: nobody has ever loved me before, Pastor Paul. Nobody has ever loved me. From that point on, she didn't smoke crack. She never prostituted herself again. She hung out with us. We didn't have a program to put her in. She just hung out at the old crack house where she used to buy crack years earlier and hung out with us every day. It's been 10 years.
Yeah.
Ironically, a few years later, Jeff and the team rescued her daughter from trafficking as well. Today, they're working out a restoration. She gets to see now her grandchild. The reason I tell you that story, you don't have to be smart. Jeff just said it. We are not smart. We weren't experts. We didn't know anything about it. We just made ourselves available and loved people. And that act of love, not shunning, not calling her names. And listen, she was violent, man. She was scary. I have her shank in my office. It's a piece of rebar about this long with black tape for a handle. She would clobber people with that sucker, man. So I'm glad I own it. She doesn't know it anymore. And one day she comes to me. She says, Pastor Paul, you think I'm crazy? I said, oh, Vic, you are the craziest woman I ever met. And so serious, she says, my psychiatrist tells me that. She's really open. But Vicki was our hope. This girl who had no hope. And I believe that nobody's a throwaway. But Vicki was a throwaway 2 times by her trafficker. This girl, 43, ended up solo. She was thrown away. She felt that they had no value. And can I just say this? In a group this size, some of you feel like you have no value here too. I'm not here to try to force you into anything, but some of you here feel like you have no value, that you're friendless. I want to let you know that you are valuable. And your situations don't have to be your definition of who you are. And I just want to encourage you, because I'm not going to get an opportunity in a moment, because I'm going to let Jeff finish up this session. You can ask some questions. But you are very valuable. Regardless of what people have said to you, how you've been treated. And the reason I'm telling you this, I don't think any of you are going to go into trafficking, but statistically somebody could be coerced into that. And one of the main reasons is because they feel they have no value and they're looking for value. I want to let you know, you are not a target if you believe in yourself. You hear me? You really believe that you have value. I just want to share that with you. Is that okay? Jeff?
I don't want to follow that.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, let's play hopscotch or something then.
Do you guys have questions for us? Man, y'all have been so attentive. Thank you so much. Like, you honor us by just being here and listening. And we were talking about this when we were eating our nachos.
Great nachos, man.
Guys, the future of anti-trafficking and the future of the freedom movement, pastor's handing the torch to his son. I'm going to be handing the torch to someone. You guys are the future of this work, of this conversation.
Yeah.
You're the future of hope in our communities. So thank you so much for all the ways that you already find just to encourage your friends, your classmates to speak truth and bring awareness to things that are difficult. So thank you guys.
Question? Yeah, way in the back.
Sorry. You
Really
mentioned-
loud.
You mentioned the note cards that you hand out with the flowers.
Yes.
Is that something that like we at school, if we can't go volunteer, we could volunteer to write
Absolutely.
note cards and
Oh.
then?
Yeah. So the question was, even if y'all can't actually go out on the outreach, is making the card something you can do? 100%. We would love that. We go through like 40 cards a week, so we always need more. So we have like a 1 page of basic guidelines, like try to stay within these parameters. And then apart from that, just whatever's in your heart that you would want to communicate. If you could literally be standing in front of someone in a dark situation, what would you want them to hear? Write that down. We'll put it in their hands. That'd be awesome.
Is that on your website, the guidelines?
We'll email it to Miss Howell and let her distribute it. Yeah.
Check this out. We were in Phoenix, Arizona a couple years ago for Super Bowl. And this girl's writing out a card, and she just thought, God, I just need to write Heather on this card. She said, that's stupid, right? Well, she did it. She wrote Heather. And so we're out, and she walks up to this girl sitting in a car with somebody, and she walks up and she goes, hey, this really is weird. I got this card. I wrote Heather on it. I don't know why. She goes, my name is Heather. Isn't that weird? Huh? Girl starts weeping. Both of them are crying, hugging. Oh, it's crazy. Oh, man. You never know, right?
It's true,
yeah,
yeah.
it was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeffrey's a little crazy, and Vicky.
You have to be.
Yeah. Questions? Distraction, not asking. Okay.
I saw one if nobody else did.
Yeah.
Well, you just talked to them a little bit about the Super Bowl.
Sure.
What's coming our way, and
Yeah.
that there's the dark side and the hope side.
Yeah. So,
Hope side, the Falcons win.
Come on.
Play. That'd be the hope side.
Hey, y'all are all Falcons, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Not a lot of team spirit that I'm hearing, but that's okay. So, y'all, large event. One of the reasons Atlanta has such a problem is because we're such a ripe city for hosting big events. Like, we have a good hotel industry. We have the largest airport in the world. We have good interstates that, lots of traffic, but we are truly a place that, like the MLS soccer all-star soccer games coming here. We just hosted the National Football Championship. We're hosting the Final Four after the Super Bowl. We're bidding on the World Cup of Soccer, which is one of the biggest trafficking events in the entire world. And so we're saying, hey, we don't want to be like the negative people who are like, don't bring this stuff here because there's trafficking that happens. But we want to say, hey, let's make Atlanta the absolute best city in the world to have big events and conventions and sporting. We're proud of our city. That's why we're doing what we do. So with that, when a bunch of men are coming into a city for a convention or a sporting event or whatever, and they got money to spend and they're walking around town with not much to do, they turn to prostitution a lot and trafficking. And the traffickers know that. Women are bussed in from all over the country. The ads spike online for escort services. So we want to ramp up our efforts. We want to do, instead of weekly outreaches, we want to do outreaches every day for the 2 weeks leading up. We're going to be at the bus stations. We're going to be doing general awareness. We got 100,000 people in our city that are from all cities all over the world. Let's make a postcard with 3 facts and a hotline number on it, put it in their hands, and take 30 seconds to tell them about the issue of trafficking. So we want to spread out all over downtown with Super Bowl City that they set up, all the big concerts, and get the word out there. We're going to have rescue teams ramped up. We're going to have extra temporary shelter beds going. And if you guys, we're building this massive platform for all these events that are coming. And there are going to be things that are not age restricted, and we would love to see some of you guys engage that process with us. So that's another thing we can get info to, and then you guys can think as a student body about ways that you might want to engage in that with us. So
We're going to thank you for being here, but I don't know if are they watching this right now, John's class?
you guys see us?
Hey, you guys, thank you so much for being a part of this. This is so awesome, and John, thank you for getting this online with us. We're so pleased to be able to speak to your classes as well. Thank you. All right, any other questions? Are we out? Time up?
There's just 2 minutes left.
camera's up there.
I guess we'll just plug the race really quickly. So, the easy way to jump in if you're like, I don't know. On March 24th, Peer Leadership
Finishing
does
at
the Prize is
45
5K.
perfectly.
It'll be here.
So,
Get a really cool water bottle if anybody's got one. Peer Leadership.
Right here.
T-shirts, sunglasses, Chick-fil-A coupons, all of that. You can sign up online, see a Peer Leadership student at bhspeerleadership.com. And the proceeds are going to benefit the Dream Center. So if it's just one of those, like, I don't know, that's a simple way to help. You come, participate, they'll be at the race. And then you may not be able to do what they're talking about, but you can give them the resources they need to do what they're talking about. So, easy way to jump in, get involved. You'll see us have a lunch for sign-ups and stuff like that from here to the race.
One more thing Jeff and I didn't do in the earlier sessions, we want you to know if you feel